Hello and welcome. Today on the lineup, we have barbecue sauces. Paul Newman, Newman's Own barbecue sauce. We have Burman's, the Perfect Touch Kansas City sauce, as well as Open Pit. We are delighted that you are here with us today, and we hope you stick around. This is Sauce Spoken. And welcome back to Sauce Spoken. I'm your co-host, Tori.
I'm your co-host, Adam, and we're here with our guest, Eric.
Funny. I'm your other co-host, Eric.
Well, all that for a setup joke.
I'm trying to have some fun here. Cut me a break. But anyway, so how's your life going this week, E? You've been a little low on sleep, and you're a guy
Low on
who's,
sleep and visiting people, though, trying to get out and about, even though it's supposed to be isolation times here.
Well, I was going to say, you're not going out and partying, but you were at a party recently.
I was at a party.
You kind of messed that up. So you will probably bring about the end of all of us.
Yes. We're going to never hear the end of it because I went out for a barbecue.
How was it?
It was good. They had barbecued ribs and rabbit and chicken.
Rabbit.
What kind of barbecue sauce?
Yeah, that's the burning question.
That is the burning question. The barbecue sauce was excellent. So he started with a Sweet Baby Ray's smoky chipotle, and then he used just regular Sweet Baby Ray's on top of that. So it was like sweet and then a little smoky and spicy.
Ray on Ray action.
Ray on Ray. It was,
Ray
it was
on
excellent.
Ray. You were the youngest person at the party by 20 years, you said?
That's about right.
You brought down the average age to 72.
Right. It was your grandpa that felt bad for you, right? That's why he invited you?
We'll go with that.
And what about you, Tori? How's your life been going
What
recently?
about me? Well, things are going terrifically. My two little cats are still doing very, very well.
Oh, very good.
Even though they're pushing ancient.
Ah,
Yeah, my little orange one, he is just as cute as the Dickens.
such a sweetie.
Yeah, I took him out to the bar not long ago. He turned 21.
Oh.
So yeah, so
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's an old boy.
He's not actually 21, is he?
No, he's pushing it. No,
I was going to
yeah.
say.
He's probably about 18 by now. We took him to vote. Well, how about that for the sake of the joke?
Yeah, I was going to say you could buy him a cigarette, but you can't even do that anymore.
No.
It's a real bummer.
He's
Just cross the border up to Canada. Take him up there for his first drink.
there we go. That's a good idea.
Of course, the fact that he can't smoke is probably why he's lived this long.
Yeah. But he's lived with me, so he's seen enough questionable things to probably scare at least 2 or 3 lives out of his 9.
And enough secondhand smoke.
That's it.
Hey, those days are
Couple
over.
years off,
Yeah,
right?
I hung that up a while ago.
Good for you.
But,
It's okay. You
But-
can say potty words on this podcast.
oh, I you know that PG-13. You know, that's how I like to
You say
operate.
TG-13?
Ooh,
A new rating system.
sounds like a rapper.
Anything goes.
But yeah, I mean, well, outside of all that, I appreciate you asking. I can't complain.
I was hoping you would just say everything's great like most people do when I ask them, but
No, you're
went a
never
little
going
more
to get that
in-depth.
just for me.
Looking
Yeah,
for that blase vanilla. No, that's not going to happen with any of us.
no.
what I really meant was, is it my turn to talk yet? That's really what I meant.
Well, go ahead, be my guest. Be our guest, righty?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm doing. No, hold on a second. You spun my own little joke around.
I
on me.
did,
I'm not the
and I
guest.
executed it better than you did. I think.
It took me a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, things have been going pretty well. I've been sleeping relatively good. I've been working.
You said
on
you're
some-
sleeping relatively good,
Yeah,
like sleeping.
yeah.
Okay, I just want to clarify.
Was that mumbling again?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sleeping rather well these days. Wow, that's terrific. How are you bathing?
Very poorly. No, I've been trying to do some pouring those concrete steps. You know, the janky ones.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I know. I almost killed you, so I've been trying to work on that. Oh, and I poured some footers for a pergola the other day too.
Really?
I've been doing that. Yeah, a lot of outside work.
Dang, look at you. Well
Yeah.
done.
I'm off work all next week.
Oh, that's
so
great.
yeah, I got a little furlough. So I was hoping to do some outside work during that, but it looks like it's supposed to rain. So thanks, fucking Pittsburgh.
Apparently, you're going to have a hot one here coming up. This Saturday is going to be hot. Capital H hot.
Yeah, it looked like pretty low chance of rain.
Yeah.
10% or something like that. But
Very,
yeah,
very low.
It has been screaming hot around here lately.
Shouting hot?
It has been shouting hot, as a matter of fact. We had 2 solid weeks of like 95 degrees.
Absolutely, yeah.
So even today got up to, I think, 93, and the humidity level, it made it feel just oppressive.
Absolutely.
I think we're heading back to the heat index conversation. a
Oh,
little bit
God.
swiftly.
We
try not
well,
to.
like we
Let's-
discussed last time, this is a weather podcast. This is just a
meteorological.
cover
That's
for
right.
a weather podcast, right?
Yeah. We got our satellites outside.
Yeah, that's correct. We launched one recently, right? That was part of our podcasting endeavor.
A satellite, yeah.
Yeah, our own personal. We didn't want any service interruptions.
Yeah. From the roof of E's car. We took it to the baseball field, remember?
Well, I thought we were just going to launch his car into space, a la Elon Musk.
Certainly.
Just strap a couple of water rockets to it. You'll put that thing into orbit in no time.
Just about. It's a tiny one.
We had a bit of a bad experience with some bottle rockets. One of us, who shall remain unnamed, caught themselves on fire briefly.
Yeah. It wasn't even 4th of July, if my memory serves.
That was kind of
prior.
like the curse of prior to 4th of July, if you light them off before then. Unlike the rest of the entire country that's been setting off fireworks for months,
Yeah, months and months.
People out of work, so they have nothing better to do than set off fireworks.
I find flaws in that theory because if you're not working, fireworks aren't cheap.
Yeah.
And to have that type of firepower for that extended length of time.
If you notice, what I've been noticing a lot is it's been a lot of one will go off, and then sometimes there's no follow-up, and then sometimes it's in the middle of the day.
Yeah. Other times it's 11:30 at night.
I was actually reading there are some government conspiracy theories about this, about like the government's doing some kind of, they're trying to normalize us to dissent or something like that, or normalize us to gunshots with the sounds, or drug dealers are using the fireworks to signal when their pickups are ready, things like that.
It's an interesting take.
Yeah, you know me, man. If it's even the slightest bit bizarre, I'm all over it.
That's true.
A part of me absolutely buys into that, no question.
I do generally think the simplest explanation is probably the most obvious, which is just that people are bored and setting them off.
I'd have to agree. But I always like to hear the conspiracy theories, and I
All
always
the
find them
wackos.
interesting. Yeah, it's fun.
And you were not one of the ones setting them off either, E.
I was definitely setting them off with you when you cut your shirt on fire.
Oh, that's correct. Which is funny now that you bring that up again, because I was just talking about when we're in preschool, they seem to emphasize a certain amount of teachable moments pretty strongly. One of those is stop, drop, and roll. That's one of the, if anything, that and the Pledge of Allegiance, I think, are the two things I learned in preschool. Since then, I've had very few opportunities where I felt like it was necessary to stop, drop, and roll.
Yeah, that's really pounded into your head. And part of me thinks that, once you get to a certain age, you sort of understand the mechanics of fire. So you don't really need like this mental trick, stop, drop, and roll.
But then you do sometimes see those YouTube videos of the kids running around on fire after playing with gasoline. So maybe that is good. I don't know.
They didn't take it to heart, though.
Right. But you would think that it was much more likely to catch on fire based on preschool information.
Oh, no question. Yeah.
I mean, it definitely happens, though. There are people who have fire incidents.
How many times have you caught on fire, E?
I'm going to have to say unintentionally, none.
We're going to count them all. It don't matter.
Intentionally?
How many times intentionally
times.
did you set yourself?
How many times have you caught other people on fire is a better question.
So there's that awesome fire gel. Did you guys ever play around with that when you were in high school?
No.
Burns very cool, as long as you keep it on the top of yourself, so you can just like spread it on your arm, light it on fire, watch it burn.
Hold on.
Totally fine.
Talking hand sanitizer?
Yeah, hand sanitizer?
They make a thicker gel that's actually for.
But it's just alcohol, right?
Yeah, it's basically alcohol based. Yeah,
So it's hand sanitizer.
So it's not gasoline and
it's not
styrofoam?
gasoline. My dad caught himself on fire with gasoline, and he stopped, dropped, and rolled.
So he's a
Just to
wise man.
clarify,
Now, I will say I have caught a number of other people on fire.
that doesn't surprise me for some reason.
That sounds borderline arson.
No, it wasn't their property. It was just their persons. Which I don't think that's arson. I think that's assault, maybe. But
Just it. I mean, little kids are the ones that you really have to worry about catching themselves on fire. They
Right.
need to learn to stop, drop, and roll. To elaborate on my father, he pouring gasoline on a
On
already
you.
lit fire. Already on a lit
send
fire.
it back to God.
He caught his leg on fire, or somehow he caught himself on fire when he was a kid. He ran until he passed out from the pain.
Wow.
He had to get skin grafts and whatnot out of his leg,
Wow.
kind of
poor guy.
rebuilt. So
I'm surprised this is the first I'm hearing this.
Yeah, right.
he's fine for the most part. He went into the military and whatnot. I mean,
Gets around okay?
Yeah, gets around fine. Just looks like a bad scar on most of his calf on this one.
I guess it's
Like-
better to be on your calf than it would be on like your face or something.
Oh,
At least
yeah,
there's
definitely.
that. I guess as some
On
consolation.
your armpit or something really
Yeah.
nasty.
Right, right.
Your nipples. Did you burn your nipples off?
Well, good thing for guys, they really serve no purpose for us, but
Oh, speak for yourself.
Might as well burn them off, right? They're useless.
useless,
burn 'em
might
off.
as well.
Fingertips, everything else. Another thing they also brought up a lot in play school was quicksand. to this day, I have never encountered quicksand.
Yeah.
Some people will consider mud that you get your boots stuck in. I just learned this the other day. One of my coworkers was telling me that he got caught in quicksand. What I think he meant was mud because it pulled the boots off.
Like as he was lifting out his foot, he was trying to okay. That's definitely not quicksand.
No,
Definitely
I
not
didn't think
quicksand.
so.
No. There's mud pits that would just keep sucking you in.
Yeah, I think, the whole quicksand thing, I think that was a big thing in video games at the time, too.
Oh, yeah.
We're going back, Nintendo.
Well, was that in Pitfall? Was that a...
I'm thinking Mario Brothers. There were several as quicksands. Off the top of my head, I can think of a couple of video games where they really... Quicksand was really something to be worried about.
Tomb Raider, Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
Maybe movies, too, maybe?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not too good on the movies.
Yeah, I'm not as well versed about that.
So you know how to prevent yourself from being
you just
susceptible to quicksand?
Just kind of float, right? Like you don't want to struggle. Isn't that the whole gist of it? Like you kind of want to float on your back and let it kind of buoy you up?
As much as you can, I guess. But if you're in quicksand, I'd say you're kind of SOL.
Oh, I thought
ideally you want someone to be outside with a large stick to help pull you out.
And being in western Pennsylvania, geez, the quicksand, it's almost inevitable.
Oh, yeah.
I was walking down the street. I was going to John Eagle, as we say. John Eagle. And I stepped in a vat of it right outside the door, the main entrance.
I'm glad you made it home.
Yeah. It popped me out into the upside down briefly, but then I got back. So I had to fight the Demigorgon, but it was cool after that. So
the Yinzer Gorgon.
Yeah, the Yinzer Gorgon. Let's talk a little bit about what brings us here today. We got a few sauces, and for this go around, we chose some barbecue sauces. 3 different types.
We got ourselves a Burman's Kansas City barbecue sauce, and we have Newman's own original barbecue sauce. We've got Pitmaster's Choice Open Pit Barbecue Sauce. Original 1953 recipe.
Where were these sauces from?
Well, see, the Open Pit and the Newman's Own were sourced from Walmart. Burman's, I think we discussed earlier, is an Aldi's brand.
Sure is, yep.
I didn't verify that, but I've never seen it outside of Aldi's, and I'm inclined to believe that's one of...
Aldi's twice as nice guarantee, my man. There it is.
That's an Aldi's brand.
Aldi's brand, confirmed.
We kind of chose 3 different styles. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but barbecue sauce is kind of one of the signature American foods. That is something that we pioneered and did not steal from another culture, which is kind of rare. Seems to have influence from some other cultures, but it primarily seems to have started in the Carolinas. That seems to be kind of like the original style was the very vinegar-heavy Carolina style, and then the other ones kind of seem to have branched off of that.
I guess it makes sense. I mean, vinegar's pretty cheap.
Evidently, some of the original ones were just made solely from vinegar and black pepper and salt. Other flavorings like the Worcestershire, sugar, tomato. Some of the smoky flavors, a tomato, things like that, those were actually later introductions. I was trying to envision that just a salt made from vinegar, salt, and pepper, and I could definitely see that working, but it doesn't strike me as what you would call a modern barbecue sauce.
No, absolutely not.
Definitely not modern, but it's certainly interesting to hear about where it originated from. I can see it. I can see the evolution when you point it out.
Yeah, and as much as I like vinegar and salt, of course, salt and vinegar chips, I can eat a whole tank of those, but I'm not sure if something like that on barbecue would tickle me.
I guess I wonder what it would be. I mean, that vinegar helps to break down and actually tenderize the meat. So
right, as does the salt,
and as does the salt.
And the pepper there was adding kind of the kick a little bit.
Right. So
be darned.
See it on chicken or on ribs or on
probably on some cheap cut of meat. I'm assuming
a cheaper cut of meat.
Absolutely.
Slather that on there. Let it sit for hours.
I think that's what you'll find with a lot of, especially like American, but a lot of just foods in general, is that a lot of dishes that we consider kind of extravagant now started off as paupers' food. One of the sauces we have, the Open Pit, was actually one of the first barbecue sauces.
1953.
It doesn't sound like it's going back far enough. At least not this particular recipe. 1953.
Well, I think that might have been a revision. I don't know if we're trying the original recipe per se. It seems like Heinz was one of the first, which makes sense.
You're talking like on a mass production type scale?
Yes, on a mass production scale. The Georgia Barbecue Sauce Company of Atlanta cited as one of the first, and then shortly thereafter, General Foods introduced their Open Pit barbecue, which we sampled today, which was the cheapest of the sauces by a pretty good margin.
What was the margin, out of curiosity?
I think that the open pit, I believe, was 97 cents.
That's a steal.
And I believe that the most expensive was the Newman's Own, I believe, at $3.97. I think we all kind of felt similarly about how these sauces perform. Now, I don't know about you guys, but the one that I was always given as a child was the open pit.
I can't say I've ever had open pit.
Yeah, I'm with E on this one. As a matter of fact, I can't even say the label looks familiar to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, what kind of barbecue sauce did you guys grow up on?
We had A1 sauce all the time. We had Heinz 57 sauce all the time. When it came to barbecuing, we actually had Newman's Own, I think, barbecue sauce a lot growing up.
Had a lot of Ray's.
And Ray's.
Yeah.
Sweet Baby Ray's.
Yeah, Sweet Baby Ray's.
But Sweet Baby Ray's is relatively, I want to say they're relatively new.
I think they are a newer one. I think they are, I didn't do any research on that, but I want to say within the last 20 years, I think they kind of came into popularity at least.
Right. So when I was real young, I don't think Sweet Baby Ray's was really an option. It wasn't something that was readily available. And I'm pretty sure we had something like Masters. Wait, was it Kraft maybe? They have a Masters
Oh,
series?
absolutely. Kraft does have several.
I think it was Kraft. We always had Kraft Ranch. So I think we had Kraft Barbecue.
You boys remember a restaurant by the name of Damon's? With the ribs. They had really, really good ribs.
No.
No, I don't remember that either.
Yeah, that may have just been a local thing. I don't know. But they had dynamite ribs. I mean, that's where me personally, I got turned on to barbecue and ribs and that type of deal.
My mom was always really big on the frugality, so whichever was the cheapest of the sauces was what we had. So we frequently had open pit. And then, like you were saying, like kind of around the time that the Sweet Baby Ray's got popular, we eventually transitioned to that. But I think that might have tripled the cost of the barbecue sauce in the household. But we felt like the extra high fructose corn syrup was worth it.
I mean, honestly, Sweet Baby Ray's nowadays I think it's come down in price, if anything, hasn't it?
It has definitely gotten
like $1 a bottle.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten pretty cheap. Kind of while we're on that, the open pit, I think we all agreed that was kind of more of a vinegary.
It is. It's interesting that you said how it's like an older recipe, been around longer, and then you also talked about the origins of barbecue, and it's like, oh, okay, I totally see that strong vinegar flavor. It's pretty good sauce.
It has a little bit of a kick to it too, and I think that was kind of a signature also of the more of a Carolina style, which was kind of the original barbecue. That was more of a vinegar heavy with a little bit of a kick to it. And kind of a thinner sauce, too.
It is, I was going to comment. It's the thinnest of the three sauces we tried tonight, for sure.
Right.
I found that very similar to the red sauce at Arby's that comes in the packet.
Oh, that's funny.
Now, see, I don't know that
Arby's
the
sauce
Arby's
has more tang to it.
Yeah, more of a tang and less of a vinegar, I think.
I don't know, man.
Really?
I'd be interested to do a side-by-side.
But is that a barbecue sauce, do you think? I don't know.
They label it as Arby's sauce. It's their signature sauce, and I would call it a barbecue. I would.
I believe that Arby's is actually an Ohio institution. I believe the first one was in Ohio.
Oh, there you go.
No
I want to say near Youngstown area.
Us Flatlanders.
I could be totally wrong about this. This is my uninformed opinion.
You guys know your roast beef. I mean, that's an uninformed fact.
That's my uninformed fact of the day. Actually, I'm going to take a hard stance on this. The first Arby's was from Youngstown, Ohio. Now, that is truly an uninformed fact now. But as we kind of talked about there, the Carolina was kind of the original, and then they kind of branched out into using more of the tomato paste and more of the sugar and some of the smokiness, which kind of leads us into one of our other sauces, which was the Aldi's Burman sauce, which was a Kansas City style sauce. They definitely add some sugar. They definitely thickened it up considerably, and it's more of a tomato base to it, I would say.
I would agree with that. It's definitely the thickest of the sauces that we had tonight, and it's good. It's sweet. You say it's tomatoey. I don't know. I almost wonder if it's like more molasses, maybe.
I didn't get tomatoes as much. Definitely got the molasses.
Yeah.
If I were to classify Burman's, the perfect finish, by the way. Burman's the perfect finish. I would have to classify that as the quintessential barbecue sauce. If there's a barbecue sauce, generic barbecue sauce. Not to say it's bad. I think it hits on checks all the regular barbecue boxes.
That's good. That's very good.
I'd agree with that. It's
middle of the road.
Sweet.
Yeah.
It's sweet, though. It's definitely on the sweeter side, I would say.
I don't think it's one of the sweeter sauces. I actually think Sweet Baby Ray's has some considerably sweeter sauces. There's definitely,
that's true.
I think it's probably middle of the road sweetness-wise.
Okay.
Like Ray.
Yeah, well, I think E particularly has a tendency to rate things as much more sweet than I think the average person would see them as.
I'd agree with that.
I agree with that as well.
We have said before you have somewhat of a unrefined palate, somewhat of a child's palate, kind of sensitivity to salt and sugar, and the tendency towards bland foods.
Me and my quinoa salads.
Now, I think you've personally said before that your favorite food was tofu, correct? You've stated that before as a fact?
Raw tofu.
I'm going to state confidently that E's favorite food is tofu. And that is another
100%
that's a
false.
second uninformed fact for you. Take a look at that Newman sauce. Does it give any kind of indication as to its type on there?
No, there's no distinction as to the locality of this particular sauce.
Which I think that seems right based on our kind of tasting of it. It doesn't really seem, my statement was that it didn't seem like they really decided what direction they wanted to go with it.
Yeah, I can't express how disappointed I am in Cool Hand Luke. I was really expecting a better sauce. Disappointed is an understatement. Paul, you let me down. I got not much more to say about it than that.
Couldn't agree more, which to me, it was very much of a disappointment because normally I will, if there's a choice, my choice is generally Newman's Own for most things. Like I vastly prefer their salad dressings, especially their Caesar is excellent.
Yeah.
Their marinara sauce, bar none. So I was very disappointed to find this barbecue sauce seemed directionless. There's some vinegar notes, there was some sweetness, there was some smokiness, but it seemed just kind of like a disorganized mess. It didn't really seem like they had chosen a style.
It goes right down the middle of the road. And honestly, it says original barbecue sauce on it, right? And we got, in comparison to Open Pit, which is an original 1953 recipe. But essentially, so we have your more vinegary sauce there, and then you got Burman's, which has flames on it. It's supposed to be Kansas City style. So, it tries to say it alludes to something more. Newman's Own, it says it's just original barbecue. And it's original barbecue. It's kind of just okay.
I believe at the store they had a couple different varieties of it. I believe one was mainly like a honey-based type, which to me, I definitely don't think it needed more sweetness either.
Interestingly enough, the only other thing that's on the bottle of the Newman's Own is it says no high fructose corn syrup on it.
Well, that's why it sucks. One thing I think it's interesting to note, if you're sauce folks like we are, they dress good old Paul up in a different outfit depending on the sauce that's in the bottle. And so next time you're at the grocery store, please,
yes,
check. In this particular instance, he's, what would you call that? Like
a plantation owner, right?
He certainly has the hat. I'm thinking maybe like a Wild West type fellow.
Is that a whip?
Like a top hat, maybe?
Some type of
maybe has a red
crushed felt hat.
For a second there, I thought he had like straw hanging out of his mouth too. For a second, no, I
just think that's the shadow.
Let me take a good look at here.
Paul. See what he's wearing there. It's almost like a fedora top hat type deal.
Yeah, I do think that appears to be felt, and he's got a little kind of a handkerchief tied around his neck as a tie. It looks like looking dapper as always, though. Preferred by 9 out of 10 pigs.
Wow, what, the sauce?
That's its claim.
Okay, I get the joke. Okay.
Yeah, I'm assuming because you would
put it
on a pig.
Yeah,
I guess.
I'm expecting, you're inquiring to, Mr. Pig. What are your thoughts on this sauce?
I want to know what the 10th pig said. Personally, he definitely has his pick of the pack for barbecue sauces. That was probably one of the primary sauces they had at Walmart.
Yeah, I agree with the 10th pig too.
10th pig said, "Woof, not me."
But for Paul Newman being such a badass.
2 dudes hustling cattle on a mountain together.
Yeah, I mean, I think that invokes...
sharing a tent.
Sure, yeah,
right.
I think that invokes, like Brokeback Mountain.
Oh, I was like, no,
exactly
I wasn't going like that.
That's what I was hearing too.
Rolling eyes. Come on now. I'm just talking about raw masculinity.
If a sauce were a male or a female, it's like we're talking in the, maybe the Spanish, they do that, right? Everything has a gender.
Correct.
Well, the point I'm making here is I expect something manly. I expect something badass, not only from the idea that it's barbecue sauce, but the fact that Paul Newman's face is on it. I expected a lot more. My disappointment is immeasurable.
Largely what Adam said is truly that it seems like it had no direction. It's a sauce that where they followed the recipe of what a classic barbecue sauce is maybe supposed to be. I shouldn't say supposed to be, because I think barbecue sauce, like you are saying, should be a certain masculinity and a certain excitement, and this lacks both.
I do think it's important to note for the listeners at home, the Newman's Own is definitely the most phallic-shaped bottle. So if that means anything.
I think it's great we're staying on this topic. I think that's terrific.
Yeah, let's keep on the masculinity.
Yeah.
However, I will give bonus points to the Newman's Own. 100% of profits go to charity.
That's all of that.
They don't say, yeah, exactly. They don't say what charity. Yeah. But actually, I do say that I am never disappointed by buying one of their products because I feel like at the very worst, I've donated some money to charity. We mentioned earlier, the Newman's Own was the most expensive of the sauces, I believe at $3.97. Certainly not busting the budget. Can't compete with the Open Pit by any means.
No, the Open Pit has
price-wise
price-wise and more flavor, more direction of flavor.
I was looking at the ingredients here on the Newman's Own, and one of our favorite segments on the show is where we read all the ingredients point by point of all the sauces. Based on the ingredients and the cursory research from Wikipedia, it seems that they would probably classify this sauce either a Kansas City style or perhaps a Memphis style, based solely off of the ingredients. So it seems like this is probably a more direct comparison to the Burman's Kansas City style, which I think was closer to, at the very least.
No question, yeah.
I actually think the Newman's Own had more of a vinegar kick than that did.
Yeah, I'd
initially.
Initially.
The Open Pit was king vinegar, though.
Yes, absolutely.
Your Newman's Own there doesn't have apple cider vinegar, does it?
You didn't read every ingredient yet? What are we waiting for?
Distilled vinegar.
Right, they all have distilled white vinegar.
We already established that that's a hallmark of barbecue sauces.
Exactly.
Yes.
Burman's uses less of the white distilled and adds more apple cider to increase the sweetness level, which we all said was definitely the sweetest of the sauces. Or at least I felt it was the sweetest of the sauces.
We've referenced before my shoutin' sauce, which was an idea I will happily admit to have stolen from someone else. Burman's Kansas City sauce is actually the basis for my shoutin' sauce, and I do thin it out a little bit to make it more of a moppin' sauce for ribs, which is what we experienced a few weeks ago.
Now, what do you thin that out? You use another sauce,
it's a secret ingredient.
Say, do you use another sauce, or you just use a straight up like vinegar?
Well, no. One of the things you were kind of getting on there was that the apple cider vinegar. That is one of the key things. I take it from being more of a sweeter sauce, and I put in a lot more of the vinegar to try to bring out more of that. But I feel like it's a little bit more of a complex flavor than like the Open Pit if you do that, because you're starting off with kind of more base flavor there and then adding the vinegar in, as opposed to starting with vinegar and then trying to just kind of season the vinegar.
That's what I would call the Open Pit, is
right.
Vinegar based, and then you're adding spices and a little bit of tomato puree, and good for what it is, vinegary barbecue sauce, a real Carolina style.
I think that's probably why I didn't care for the Open Pit as a kid, because it was more of a vinegar flavor. And as we mentioned before, I was a thick lad. I was a hefty child. And I think I more preferred the high fructose corn syrup, the kick. Now, it is important to mention to our listeners that we are currently all hooked up to high fructose corn syrup IV drips. So we don't need that at the moment.
Standard American procedure.
Yeah, we already have that covered. We don't really need anything additional. So it's nice to have a little bit of a contrast with the Open Pit now.
No question about it, yeah. I don't think you're unique in saying that you grew into your taste for vinegar. I think a lot of folks have a very similar approach to vinegar. I know some people that still don't like it, and they're in their 30s. What dum-dums to just trash this Newman's Own barbecue sauce, because I do think it deserves it. It seems like they were trying to impress everybody.
Yes.
All at once, and failed miserably at
Well, I think one of the key components of the barbecue sauce is that it does kind of take a stance. And like I said before, we were kind of beating a dead horse here. I don't think the Newmans really took a stance. There was some smokiness. There was some sweetness. There was some vinegar. Not a lot of heat. It kind of had all those throughout the tasting experience, but none of them was predominant, and none of them were particularly well executed. In a future episode, what I hope to do, I hope to go through, I believe it's Kraft has recently introduced a line of barbecue sauces, and I think there's 5 or 6 of them, but they're all different regions of barbecue sauces, but presumably being from the same manufacturer, ingredients are similar, and they might provide a more, authentic experience of that region. The ones that we've sampled, I think we've felt they make a Carolina sauce, which has been popular at some of our gatherings.
Oh, that's right. I know 2 sauces you're talking about that you brought, which I believe they were Kraft, and they were good.
I think they make 5 or 6 of those now. A relatively new addition to their product line, I believe.
And you said that's based on region, right?
Yes, that's one thing that they do. All of theirs are distinctly marked by region, which of the 3 we have here today, only one of them chose to declare a regionality to them. Even though the open pit does seem to be clearly a Carolina-style sauce, we didn't appear to see any of that on the labeling.
The labeling's pretty bland. I mean, to be frank with you, what the hell do you want for 97 cents?
Yeah, well, you're paying.
Right. I mean, there's certainly no jazz to the packaging at all.
I almost wonder if you could use the open pit as like a marinade, like a pour it onto your meat and let it sit and let that vinegar really soak in.
Very astute. Because you bring that up, I will say one of the original Carolina style sauce's intentions was to use it, as like we discussed earlier, as a mopping sauce prior to being cooked, and then also as a dip afterwards. Whereas some of the later sauces were intentioned more as a coating on the actual meat. The Carolina was originally intended more to, like you were saying, soak into the meat and almost be used as a tenderizer.
Yeah, I have to admit, I think it'd be real interesting to have like an open pit and then have Sweet Baby Ray's or Burman's Kansas City sauce to dip afterwards. I bet the combination of that vinegary flavors, seasonings impregnated in that meat essentially, and then to have the sweeter sauce on top of it would really give it a whole lot of exciting flavors.
You won't burn off the vinegar, and you're putting the sweet sauce on late enough so it burn up all that sugar.
Right. Yeah.
And that is one of the keys. I think you don't want to put a sauce that's too sweet on before because it'll kind of caramelize. And that's the thing about sugar. It'll burn.
Yeah.
So let's go back to talking about impregnating the meat again.
Oh, yeah, that was really something.
Permeated into the meat?
There's the word. That's what we're looking for. You're like the Mike Tyson of podcasts.
It was injected into the meat.
Like, it could be injected too, yeah.
Hypodermically.
Yeah, there's people that do that.
Impregnate the meat.
It works.
Yeah, you get the point across.
Let's move on let's start talking a little bit more about our ratings for this. Now, previously on our rating system, we've kind of decided to do things on a 1 to 10 scale, and we've decided that 5 is our baseline, and we're calling that kind of a Heinz ketchup. Not that Heinz ketchup is bad, but we're saying we've decided to call that baseline. They're the same. We all aligned with how we were feeling, which was best and which one was the worst. I think we can all safely say this. E, I'm going to hand you the Newman's Own here, and you want to give us your rating of that. And I think we all kind of felt that this was in the same general region.
I'm going to give this a 4.25 to be very precise. Yeah, honestly, I think ketchup's in a way is actually more exciting than this barbecue sauce. It just doesn't do it for me.
You're throwing haymakers out there, E.
Is there something that it did to earn the 0.25 over just a straight 4?
A quarter of a point worth.
Yeah, you like I appreciated that they
the phallic bottle
tried to.
It's for charity.
That's for charity. That could do for charity, but I do appreciate that they even tried to add all those flavors. They just didn't make anything the star of it, so it ends up coming out just kind of blasé.
Tori, why don't you tell us what you think about the Newman's Own?
Wow, if I haven't made myself clear already, I am a black hole of disappointment when it comes to this. I expected so much.
Stop the podcast there.
Pardon?
You can stop the podcast there.
There's not enough bad things I can say about it. Paul Newman's my homeboy. I know you agree with me on this. To see something so lackluster come from a dude that's so hard.
Now, here's an interesting question on that. What year did he die? Do we know?
Not off the top of my head, no.
I'm just wondering how many of these sauces and condiments he has that were developed after his death. Because I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he personally didn't sign off on this barbecue sauce.
I would certainly hope so.
Yeah, I'd hope that to be the case.
We'll have to find that out for future episodes.
Yeah, we'll fill you in. Stay tuned for next week.
So me personally, I think for the Newman's Own, I'm going to put it right at a 5. I think we were being pretty hard on this, and I think part of the reason for that is it's suffering from comparison. I think if we had tried the Newman's Own on its own, perhaps up against something that was not another barbecue sauce,
it would have got first place out of 1.
I think it's definitely suffering compared to the open pit and the Kansas City from Burman's. The other problem is that with barbecue sauces, you definitely get a lot of flavor saturation from that heavy vinegar and salt. Sometimes it's kind of hard to taste them on their own. It does need to be said that we did taste these all on chicken nuggets. Yeah, chicken nuggies specifically.
Tyson, I believe. Right?
Yes, they were Tyson. We opted for name brand because we only the best.
Very refined palates.
So I'm going to go ahead and give it a 5 out of 10. And I think if I was eating it on some fries or something even, I would put it more or less even with ketchup. Definitely not my favorite, but just falls a little short. Wouldn't be my first choice for barbecuing meats by far.
You hit on something interesting there. If it was in a comparison by itself, we're comparing close to $4 sauce?
Yes.
In a glass bottle with a 97-cent special in plastic.
Yes.
Come on, you got to cut me a break, But that was the point I was making. Just to flame my man Paul Newman even more.
That's very good. On the opposite end of the spectrum, Tori, why don't you start us off with your thoughts on the open pit?
I said it before, I'm going to say it again. I likened it a great deal to the Arby's sauce, the red sauce, not the horsey sauce, which of course I'm a big fan of. Arby's seems to be a recurring theme, but I liked it a lot. You guys hit the nail on the head. Vinegary, thinner, not too sweet. I'm in my little notebook here. I made a comment how good this would be on ribs. I think this would excel on ribs rather than other proteins, say chicken or shrimp. Yeah, I really liked it. This was certainly my favorite out of the three. I'm a sucker for vinegar, always around, so that's a dead nuts ringer for me. Yeah, the 97-cent winner. Imagine that. The price was right. The sauce is right.
I'd actually like to jump in off the back of that comment because I think you really hit upon something else there too. Ribs and pork in general on their own are a fattier meat. And one of the key characteristics of an acid like the vinegar is that it tends to cut through that fattiness. So it allows you to taste the meat more. That a heavy vinegar sauce is actually best on something like that, as opposed to, like, say, a chicken, which is a much more lean meat, that sometimes can benefit from a little bit of those extra flavors kind of helping to boost it out there. I got to go back and give props to Sweet Mammy P, my mother. In her frugality, she stumbled on a real winner there. And I've avoided open pit for many years because I thought that I had advanced to many other much more high-quality barbecue sauces, but now I think it might be a staple in my fridge, and I think I'm going to go ahead and give it, for barbecue sauces, I think I might even give it 7.5 out of 10.
Nice.
I think I'd have to come in here with about a 7 too. I mean, it's good. It's, for all the reasons you guys were saying, the vinegar, the spices, the spice level is very, very manageable. I would not consider this to be a spicy sauce, but it's tasty. The pureed tomato base in there gives a nice color and adds a little bit to the flavor. It's good. It's a really good sauce.
You're sticking with a 7?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start us off with the Burman's Kansas City sauce. And I think this was kind of the middle of the road for me, and I think we all kind of felt the same way there. The main thing that I think it has going for it would be an excellent sauce to use in a recipe if it called for barbecue sauce. It was kind of neutral tasting, but it had a lot of the key flavor elements you would hope to find in a barbecue sauce, and none of them were really that overpowering. I mentioned earlier that I use it as a constituent component of my Chowton sauce. I think it works really well for that because it begs to be modified. I would probably give it a 6.5 out of 10. And I think with some modifications, especially with the addition of some more vinegar, you can actually make a superior Carolina style out of that than the open pit. Again, you'd have to modify that with some more, maybe some malt vinegar or some apple cider vinegar. What do you think, E?
I mean, I agree where they're going, where it needs to be modified. The question is, the sauce on its own, how is it on its own? I think it has the best texture out of all the sauces. I like that thicker, high fructose corn syrup. I like the sweet. I like the notes that it hits. It does have a little bit of hickory smoke in it and garlic. I would love to see it spiced up. I would love to see a hot version of that. I'm sure they have a version of it that is hot.
That would be good.
Yeah. I mean, on its own, though, I'd probably give this one the 7.5. I just like it a little bit more than the open pit, personally. I like that nice, thicker, mouthy feel to it.
One of the key things I think that we almost neglected to hit on there with the open pit was I think the open pit definitely had the most heat kick. In addition to just the vinegar, I think there was a little bit of cayenne in there.
Yeah.
You guys are detecting that at all?
I was not.
Really? Okay.
It has spice and onion powder.
I may have been deceived just by the vinegar there, but I thought that I was getting a little bit of kick at the end.
I just got vinegar mostly.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think it was any more than the kick that I was getting out of smooth and zingy Kansas City style Burmans.
Okay. Tor, what's your take on that?
What is the price point?
This isn't all these products. They are known for being excessively reasonable. This is a stab in the dark. I want to say $1.97.
Just
so I think
ballpark it for me. I'm just curious.
I think they're about in the middle. I think about $1.97.
Yeah. Dang. For that price, I think you got a pretty solid barbecue sauce on your hands. For especially for chicken nuggets, especially for the medium that we had tonight. I thought the sweetness may be reminiscent of McDonald's sauce, because that, of course, everything is chock full of sugar out there. So, I think it was certainly reminiscent of that. On Tyson chicken nuggets, it was delicious. Certainly wouldn't be my first choice. I like the open pit. I like the vinegar, but not awful. With that being said, it's probably going to be floating right around ketchup for me, a 5. It'd probably be in my refrigerator for years, and I would reminding of the fact that it's full of sugar and full of vinegar and nothing's going to get to it, and it would remain there.
Speaking of nuggets, I think you may have hit upon a golden nugget there, Tori.
I am just...
Inadvertently.
This blind squirrel is finding all types of nuts.
I think that... I'm going to leave that one alone. I think
pretty self-explanatory.
I think that perhaps for a future episode, we might do a review of all the McDonald's sauces. Perhaps on a Nuggie Challenge night.
Yeah.
We also keep referencing Arby's a lot, so we should probably refresh ourselves in the Arby's sauces.
Arby's does have some other sauces, too. They have their 2 that they're primarily known for.
And
but
then there's the Red Ranch, I believe. Yeah.
I know they've got like a hotter pepper sauce, I think. But they've got some in-store flavors that I don't think they have little packets of, and they're kind of like a dine-in only experience.
I believe, I think you're right.
Might have to be a live podcast at the Arby's.
That would be terrific.
Or I do have some empty
Behind
sauce bottles. We can just go load them up and bring them home.
I like that idea, too.
I don't see why not.
Something else that crossed my mind, regional sauces. We reach out to a particular restaurant, say in Memphis, say in Kansas City, something that is really well reviewed or even suggested to us. See if they'll send us a bottle or 2. And I'm just sort of thinking out loud here. But yeah, in terms, now we got the regional barbecue sauce that's sort of fresh in the mind. But I don't know.
Absolutely.
Just sort of kicking around ideas.
One of my family's favorites is Corky's barbecue sauce out of Memphis, which is one of the top rib joints there in Memphis, Tennessee.
Ooh.
And their barbecue sauce is quite renowned as being a top premium sauce. I like it. It's been a while since I've had it. I'd have to sample it again and really compare and contrast. But I know when I'm down there, they're excellent on their ribs. The ribs fall off the bone delicious.
I wonder if they can freeze ribs and send them up north. For us
sure
Yankees.
They have a way.
Do we have the technology
to
to freeze ribs? I think that's going to do it for our review of the 3 sauces here. Burman's Kansas City Open Pit Original Flavored and the Newman's Own barbecue sauce.
That's Burman's The Perfect Finish. I think we should...
Perfect finish.
The perfect finish.
E, any comments on other perfect finishes you've had recently? Anyways, I think that's going to wrap it up for tonight. We'll be back next week. E, do you have anything you want to say?
Thanks for listening to Sauce Spoken.
Tori, how about you? Do you have anything to say until next week?
I'm delighted that everyone came by and listened to us today. That's very nice of you. And I want everyone to take care of themselves because I think that's very, very important.
Thanks for listening to us.
Wow. Hey, what a show. Don't forget to drop us a line. Our email is saucespoken@gmail.com. Why don't you stop on by on Twitter? We're at Sauce Spoken. We'd love to hear from you. Send us a recommendation or a request. We'd be happy to hear from you. And finally, on Instagram, we take goofy pictures every once in a while. We like to throw them on there. That's going to be Sauce Spoken Official. Please share us with your family and friends. Give us a review, a subscription. It would be an honor. Or just a little note down there at the bottom. Just let us know how we're doing. That would be terrific. We are Sauce Spoken. Once again, really glad to have you here tonight. Thanks for listening.